Captain Jake Morrison sat in his chair on the bridge of the ship Horizon's Edge. He was looking at the star map in front of him. Something was wrong. The computer was showing signals from a place where no signals should exist. "Lisa, come look." At this, Jake called to his second officer. Commander Lisa Harper walked over to his chair. She had been with Jake for 5 years now. She knew when he was worried. "What is it, Captain?" Lisa asked. She looked at the screen. Her eyes went wide. "That's the Sol system," she said quietly. "But that's impossible." Jake nodded. The Sol system was the old home of humans, but humans had left that place 4,000 years ago. Nobody knew why they left. They just disappeared one day. The whole galaxy still talked about it. Where did the humans go? Why did they leave? Nobody had answers. Dr. Alex Chen came running to the bridge. He was the ship's science officer. Alex was good at finding things that others missed. "Captain, I'm getting readings from Sol that don't make sense," Alex said. He was breathing hard from running. "The signals are using old human codes, but they're stronger than anything we've seen before." Jake felt his heart beat faster. "Are you sure it's human?" "Yes, sir." The computer matched the patterns. "These are definitely human signals, but they're coming from technology that's way more advanced than what humans had 4,000 years ago." Lisa checked her weapon systems. It was what she always did when something strange happened. "Should we investigate, Captain?" Jake thought about it. The Sol system was marked as forbidden space. The Galactic Council had made it illegal to go there after the humans left. But these signals changed everything. "Set course for Sol," Jake ordered, "but keep the shields ready." The Horizon's Edge was not a big ship. It had a crew of only 20, beings from different planets. Besides the humans, there was Zethkar, a tall blue alien from the Vorthan Empire. There was also Kira Thane, a warrior from the Kethver planet. They all worked together on exploration missions. As they got closer to Sol, the signals got stronger. Alex was working hard at his station. His fingers moved fast over the controls. "Captain, I'm picking up massive energy readings," Alex said. "There's something big in the Sol system. Really big." Jake stood up from his chair. "Put it on the main screen." The stars on the screen changed. Soon they could see the Sol system. Jake's mouth fell open. Lisa grabbed his arm. Even Zethkar made a surprised sound. Earth was still there, but around it was a space station bigger than most moons. Ships moved around it like busy insects. The ships were sleek and black. They moved in ways that seemed impossible. "How many ships are there?" Jake asked. Alex checked his instruments. "At least 1,000, sir. Maybe more. And they're all using technology I've never seen before." Kira stepped forward. She was always ready for a fight. "They could be dangerous, Captain. We should call for backup." "No," Jake said. "Not yet. We need to know what we're dealing with first." Suddenly, all the screens on the bridge went white. Then, a voice came through the speakers. It was a human voice, speaking in the old Earth language. "Unknown vessel. This is Sol Defense Control. You have entered restricted space. State your purpose." Jake looked at Lisa. She nodded back at him. Jake pressed the communication button. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the exploration ship Horizon's Edge. We detected signals from this system. We're here to investigate." There was a long pause. Then the voice came back. "Captain Morrison, you and your crew are descendants of the colony ships. We have been watching your progress. Stand by for escort." One of the black ships moved toward them. It was 3 times bigger than the Horizon's Edge, but it moved like it weighed nothing. "Captain," Alex said with worry in his voice, "their ship is scanning us, but I can't scan them back. It's like they're invisible to our sensors." The black ship stopped next to them. Jake could see it clearly now. It looked human, but it was built with technology far beyond anything in the galaxy. Horizon's Edge, Follow us to Docking Bay 7. Do not deviate from the course we provide. Jake had no choice. Do as they say, he told his pilot. As they flew toward the massive station, Jake saw more ships. Some were as big as cities. Others were small and fast. All of them had the same black metal and impossible movements. "Captain," Lisa whispered, "where have the humans been for 4,000 years? And how did they build all this?" Before Jake could answer, they entered the docking bay. The bay was huge. It could hold 100 ships their size. But what surprised Jake most was the air. It smelled like Earth. It smelled like home. A group of people in military uniforms waited for them. They looked human, but they carried weapons that seemed to bend light around them. Their leader was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. As Jake and his crew left their ship, the man stepped forward. "Captain Morrison, I am Admiral Ryan Blake of the Terran Deep Space Fleet. Welcome home." Jake stared at the Admiral. Terran Deep Space Fleet, but humans disappeared 4,000 years ago. Admiral Blake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "We didn't disappear, Captain. We went to prepare. The galaxy is in more danger than anyone knows, and now it's time for us to come back." Jake felt a chill run down his back. "What kind of danger?" "The kind that eats entire solar systems for breakfast," Blake said. "Come with me, Captain. You and your crew need to know the truth. The long silence is over, and the real war is about to begin." As they walked deeper into the station, Jake looked back at his ship. It seemed so small and fragile now. He wondered if anything would ever be the same again. The humans were back, but they brought warnings of something terrible coming. Something that made them hide for 4,000 years, just to get ready for it. Jake followed Admiral Blake into the unknown, knowing that the galaxy was about to change forever. Admiral Blake led Jake and his crew through long hallways. The walls were made of metal that seemed to move slightly, like it was alive. Lights followed them as they walked, turning on ahead and going dark behind them. "Your technology is incredible," Dr. Alex Chen said, touching the wall carefully. "We've had 4,000 years to improve," Blake replied. "We needed every day of it." They entered a large room with a huge table in the center. Above the table, lights created a map of the galaxy. Jake recognized his home sector, but there were new things marked in red at the edges. "Please, sit down," Blake said. "What I'm about to tell you will be hard to believe." Jake and his crew took seats around the table. Zethkar, the Vorthon, leaned forward with interest. Kira, the Kethper warrior, kept her hand near her weapon. Blake pressed a button, and the galaxy map changed. It showed the galaxy as it was 4,000 years ago. Back then, human scientists found something strange at the edge of the galaxy, Blake began. Energy patterns that didn't match anything we knew. Our best minds studied it for years. The map zoomed in on the galaxy's edge. Jake saw empty space where stars should have been. "We discovered that something had been eating entire star systems," Blake continued. "Not just the planets, the stars themselves. Everything turned into pure energy and taken away." Lisa leaned forward. "What could do that?" "We called them the Devourers," Blake said. The map showed dark shapes moving between the stars. "They're not alive like we understand life. They're machines, but not normal machines. They can turn matter into energy and use it to make more of themselves." Alex shook his head. "That's impossible. The energy needed would be ... unlimited," Blake finished. "They don't follow the rules of physics as we know them. They come from outside our galaxy. They've already consumed dozens of other galaxies." Jake felt cold. "If they're so powerful, how are we supposed to fight them?" Blake smiled grimly. "That's why we left. The other races in the galaxy didn't believe us. They thought we were making it up to gain power. So we took our people and went to the rim of the galaxy to prepare." The map changed again, showing human ships moving to the galaxy's edge. We spent 4,000 years learning how to fight them, Blake said. We studied their technology. We found their weaknesses. And we built weapons that could hurt them. A woman entered the room. She had short brown hair and carried a device that looked like a combination of a computer and a weapon. This is Dr. Emma Stone, Blake said. She's our expert on devourer technology. Dr. Stone placed her device on the table. It projected images into the air. The devourers feed on energy, she explained. Normal weapons just make them stronger. Lasers, plasma, even nuclear weapons, they absorb it all. Then how do you fight them? Kira asked. She looked frustrated. We developed something called null space technology, Stone said. It creates areas where energy can't exist. It's the only thing that can damage them. Jake looked at the images. They showed human ships with strange weapons that seemed to bend space around them. We've been watching the galaxy all this time, Blake said, protecting you without you knowing it. We've stopped 3 small devourer scout groups over the centuries. Why didn't you tell anyone? Zethkar asked. His blue skin had turned darker with worry, because every time we tried, the galactic powers saw us as a threat, Blake replied. They thought we wanted to invade. So we stayed hidden and did our job. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Alex spoke up. Why are you telling us now? Blake's face became very serious. Because the main devourer fleet is coming. Our scouts detected them 6 months ago. They'll be here within the year. Lisa stood up quickly. We have to warn everyone. The Galactic Council, the military fleets. We've tried, Stone said sadly. We sent messages to every government. They all think it's a human trick to return to power. Jake understood now. That's why you revealed yourselves to us. You need someone they'll believe. Your ship has representatives from 3 major galactic powers, Blake said, pointing to Zethkar and Kira. If they see the evidence, maybe their governments will listen. A new person entered the room. He was wearing military armor that looked almost invisible. Only when he moved could Jake see him clearly. This is Colonel Ben Hayes, Blake said. He commands our special forces. Hayes nodded to the group. Captain Morrison, I need your crew to see something. But I have to warn you, it's not pleasant. Hayes activated another projector. The images that appeared made everyone gasp. Jake saw planets that looked like they had been drained dry, dead. Worlds with no energy, no heat, no life. This is what we found at the galaxy's edge last month, Hayes said. 3 worlds that were full of life just weeks ago. The devourers found them first. Kira stood up and walked to the images. She studied them carefully. These are Zephyrian mining colonies. They had millions of people. Had, Hayes said grimly. Now there's nothing. Not even atoms. Everything converted to energy and taken. Jake felt sick. How many devourers are coming? Blake looked at the galaxy map again. Our best estimate. Several million ships. Maybe more. They've had 4,000 years to grow their numbers, too. Can you stop them? Alex asked. Not alone, Blake admitted. We have maybe 50,000 ships with null space weapons. That's not enough against millions. So what do you want from us? Jake asked. Help us convince the galaxy to work together, Blake said. We can share our technology, but only if they accept us as allies, not invaders. Dr. Stone stepped forward. Captain, I know this is a lot to take in, but I can show you more proof. Our sensors detected Devourers scouts in your sector just last week. She changed the display to show Jake's home region. Red dots appeared near several planets. They're testing our defenses, Stone explained. Learning about our weapons and ships. The main attack will come soon. Jake looked at his crew. They all looked scared, but also determined. What do you need us to do? He asked. Take this evidence back to your governance, Blake said. Convince them that we're telling the truth. We'll give you some of our technology to prove our abilities. Hayes stepped forward. I'll also assign some of our people to go with you. They can help explain our weapons and tactics. A young woman entered the room. She had pilot markings on her uniform. This is Captain Maya Torres, Blake said. She's one of our best scouts. She'll go with you. Maya nodded to Jake. Captain Morrison, I've studied the political situation in the galaxy. I think I can help you present the evidence in a way that won't seem threatening. Jake made his decision. All right, we'll do it. But I want to see more proof first. Show me a Devourer ship. Blake and Stone looked at each other. We can do better than that, Blake said. We can show you a captured Devourer. But I warn you, seeing one up close changes people. I need to see it, Jake said firmly. Blake nodded. Very well. But remember, Captain, once you've seen what we're really fighting, there's no going back. You'll understand why we spent 4,000 years preparing, and why we might not be enough to save the galaxy. As they prepared to leave the room, Jake realized that his simple exploration mission had become something much bigger. The humans weren't just back, they were humanity's last hope against something that could destroy everything. The war for the galaxy was about to begin. Captain Jake Morrison stared at the thing in the containment cell. It hurt to look at directly. The Devourer scout was about the size of a small ship, but it seemed to bend the light around it. Parts of it looked solid, while other parts seemed to fade in and out of existence. How did you capture it? Jake asked Admiral Blake. Very carefully, Dr. Stone replied. And with a lot of losses. It cost us 3 ships and 40 good people. The Devourer moved slowly inside its prison. Strange energy patterns flowed across its surface like liquid metal. Jake could feel something wrong about it, like it didn't belong in their universe. It's still alive? Lisa asked. We think so, Stone said. But alive might not be the right word. It exists. It processes information. It wants to consume energy and grow. Colonel Hayes pointed to the walls of the containment cell. Those walls are made of null space material. It's the only thing that can hold them. Jake watched as the creature touched the wall. Where it made contact, the wall glowed with a strange light. The Devourer pulled back quickly, as if the wall had hurt it. It's trying to feed on the containment field, Stone explained. But null space energy is poison to them. That's how we kill them. Captain Maya Torres stepped closer to Jake. Captain, we need to get this information to the Galactic Council, fast. Our long-range sensors show more Devourer scouts entering this galaxy every day. Jake nodded. How long do we have? Maybe 6 months before the main fleet arrives, Blake said, lest if they decide to attack early. Jake made his decision. We'll leave immediately. Maya, can you come with us? Already packed, Maya replied with a grim smile. 3 hours later, the Horizon's Edge left the Sol system. In the cargo bay, they carried samples of human null space technology and recordings of everything they had seen. Maya Torres flew alongside them in a small, fast, human ship that seemed to flicker in and out of view. The journey to the galactic capital took 5 days. During that time, Jake watched Maya demonstrate the human weapons. Her ship could become completely invisible to all sensors. Its weapons could punch holes in space itself. Your technology is incredible, Alex said during one of their training sessions. How did humans advance so far so fast? Maya looked sad. We had to. When you know that something wants to eat your entire galaxy, you work very hard to stop it. When they reached Galactic Central, Jake called for an emergency meeting with the Council. The 3 major powers sent their top representatives. The Vorthan Empire sent Admiral Corinth, a proud blue-skinned being who had never lost a battle. The Kethver Dominion sent General Throck, a fierce warrior who believed only in strength. The Zephyrian Trade Coalition sent Director Velix, a smart politician who controlled most of the galaxy's economy. Jake presented the evidence in the council chambers. He showed them the recordings of the Devourer scout and the destroyed colonies. Maya demonstrated her ship's capabilities, making it disappear and reappear right in front of them. "This is impossible," Admiral Corinth said. "No technology can advance this much in 4,000 years. The humans are lying," General Throck declared. "They want to return and conquer us. These devourers are probably human weapons." Director Velix was more careful. "The destroyed colonies were real. We lost contact with them 3 weeks ago. But that doesn't prove these creatures exist." Jake felt frustrated. "What more proof do you need?" "Bring us a live devourer," Admiral Corinth demanded. "Let our scientists study it." Maya stepped forward. "That's too dangerous. If it escapes, it could call others." "Then we have only your word," General Throck said. "And humans have lied before." The meeting ended badly. None of the powers agreed to work with the humans. They all went back to their fleets and began preparing for war against humanity. Not the Devours. Jake was angry as they left the council chambers. "They're going to get everyone killed," he told Maya. "Maybe not everyone," Maya replied, "but a lot of people will die before they understand the truth." 2 weeks later, Jake got his answer. Emergency signals came from the Outer Rim territories. 5 more colonies had gone silent. When scout ships arrived to investigate, they found nothing but empty space. This time, one of the scout ships survived long enough to send a recording. Jake watched in horror as dark shapes moved through space, touching planets and making them disappear. The ships were huge, bigger than space stations, and they moved like living things. The recording showed the scout ship trying to fight back. Its lasers hit the devourer ships, but seemed to make them stronger. Plasma weapons did nothing. Even nuclear missiles just fed the creatures more energy. Jake sent the recording to the Galactic Council immediately. Admiral Corinth called Jake within hours. "Captain Morrison, this recording, it's real." "Yes, sir. 17 colonies are gone. Now, the devourers are moving toward the inner systems." There was a long pause. "We're calling an emergency session. Can the humans help us?" Jake looked at Maya. She nodded. "Yes," Jake said. "But you have to trust them, and you have to work together." The emergency council meeting was different from the first one. This time, Admiral Blake came in person. He brought Dr. Stone and Colonel Hayes with him. "How many ships do you have?" Director Velix asked immediately. "About 50,000 with anti-devourer weapons," Blake replied. "But that's not nearly enough. We estimate there are at least 5 million devourer ships in the main fleet." General Throck slammed his fist on the table. 5 million. Our combined fleets have maybe 200,000 ships total. Normal ships won't help, Dr. Stone explained. "We need to convert your weapons to null space technology. It will take time and resources." "How much time?" Admiral Corinth asked. 3 months to convert your first ships," Stone said. 6 months. To convert enough to make a difference. Blake looked grim. "We might not have 6 months. Our scouts report the main fleet is moving faster than expected." Colonel Hayes stepped forward. "We can teach your soldiers to fight devourers on the ground, but they need special training. Normal tactics won't work." Jake listened to the discussion and realized how desperate their situation was. Even working together, they might not be strong enough to win. "What happens if we lose?" Jake asked. Blake was quiet for a moment. "The devourers will consume this entire galaxy, every planet, every star, every living thing. Then they'll move on to the next galaxy." The room was silent. Finally, Director Velix spoke. "What do you need from us?" Blake stood up. "Everything. Every ship, every soldier, every scientist. We need to work together like never before. And even then, we might lose." Admiral Corinth nodded slowly. "Then we fight together. Human, Vorthan, Kethfer, and Zephyrian. One fleet against the darkness." "One fleet," General Throck agreed. "But I want human officers training my warriors. And I want your technology shared completely, Director Velix added. Blake nodded. Agreed. Colonel Hayes will set up training centers on your worlds. Dr. Stone will work with your scientists to convert your weapons. As the meeting ended, Jake felt both hope and fear. The galaxy was finally united, but against an enemy that might be too strong to defeat. Maya put her hand on his shoulder. Captain, there's something else you should know. The humans have one more plan, but it's something we hoped we'd never have to use. What kind of plan? Jake asked. Maya looked very sad. The kind where we might save the galaxy, but lose everything else. Outside the council chambers, the first converted human alien ships were already being built. The race against time had begun. The conversion of the galactic fleet was not going well. Dr. Stone stood in the engineering bay of a Vorthan battleship, watching smoke pour from the failed null-space weapon test. The power core can't handle the energy load, the Vorthan engineer reported. It overloads every time we try to fire. Stone wiped sweat from her forehead. Try reducing the output by 30%. We need these weapons working in 2 weeks. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the observation deck. In the past month, they had lost 8 ships during conversion attempts. The technology was too different from what the other races used. Colonel Hayes entered the bay with bad news written on his face. Captain, we just lost another training base. The Kethfer warriors aren't adapting to the null-space tactics fast enough. Jake sighed. How many casualties? 60 dead, twice that many injured, Hayes replied. The Devourers don't fight like normal enemies. When you shoot them with regular weapons, they get stronger and smarter. Maya Torres arrived with more bad news. Jake, our scouts report the main Devourer fleet has accelerated. They'll be here in 6 weeks, not 3 months. Jake felt the weight of command crushing down on him. He had become the unofficial coordinator between the human and alien forces. Everyone looked to him for answers he didn't have. What about the converted ships? He asked Stone. We have maybe 200 working properly, she replied, against 5 million Devourers. Admiral Blake's voice came over the communication system. All senior officers report to the command center immediately. The command center was aboard Blake's flagship, now docked at Galactic Central. When Jake arrived, he found representatives from all the major powers gathered around a massive tactical display. The display showed the approaching Devourer fleet. It looked like a dark cloud, moving through space, consuming everything in its path. Ladies and gentlemen, Blake began, we're out of time. The enemy will reach the outer colonies for weeks. We need to make our stand now, with what we have. Admiral Corinth looked at the tactical display with professional interest. What's our battle plan? Blake highlighted several star systems on the map. We'll make 3 defensive lines. The first will slow them down and gather intelligence. The second will be our main battle line. The third will protect the core worlds. General Throck studied the positions. You're planning to sacrifice the outer systems. We have no choice, Blake said grimly. We can't protect everything. Director. Velix pointed to the supply lines. My merchant ships can evacuate civilians from the outer colonies, but we'll need protection. I'll provide escort ships, Hayes offered, but we can't guarantee their safety once the fighting starts. Jake looked at the plan and saw its flaws. Admiral, this assumes the Devourers will attack in a straight line. What if they don't? Maya stepped forward with new intelligence data. Our deep scouts report something strange. The Devourers aren't just advancing randomly. They're heading directly for specific targets. She changed the display to show Devourer movement patterns. They're not just looking for energy to consume. They're looking for something specific. Dr. Stone studied the patterns. They're targeting worlds with high technology levels, especially worlds with space-folding capabilities. Why would they want our faster-than-light technology? Admiral Corinth asked. Blake's face went pale. Because they want to leave this galaxy faster. If they get our jump drive technology, they can reach other galaxies in years instead of centuries. The room fell silent as everyone understood what this meant. They're not just going to consume us, Jake said slowly. They're going to use our technology to consume the entire universe faster. Maya checked her data again. The main targets are the Vorthan technology worlds, the Kethver military bases, and ... double quotes, she paused. And what? Blake demanded. Earth, Maya said quietly. They're making a direct line for the Sol system. Blake stood up straight. Then we make our stand at Earth. All fleets, all converted ships, everything we have. Colonel Hayes shook his head. Sir, that's putting all our forces in one place. If we lose, it won't matter where our ships were, Blake replied. This is humanity's home. We defend it here. Over the next 3 weeks, the largest fleet in galactic history assembled around Earth. Human ships with their null space weapons formed the core. Vorthan vessels with experimental energy shields took the flanks. Kethver warships, built for close combat, prepared for boarding actions. Zephyrian support ships kept the fleet supplied and maintained. Jake commanded a mixed squadron of human and alien ships. His crew had grown to include officers from all the major races. They had trained together, fought simulated battles together, and learned to trust each other. The waiting was the hardest part. Long-range sensors showed the Devourer fleet was 3 days away. Everyone knew that many of them would not survive the coming battle. Lisa Harper approached Jake on the bridge. Captain, I've been thinking about what Maya said, about the humans having one more plan. Jake had been thinking about that too. I'm afraid to ask what it is. Dr. Stone answered from the science station. It's called the Null Barrier Protocol. We can create a barrier around the entire galaxy that will keep the Devourers out forever. That sounds perfect, Alex said. Why haven't you used it already? Stone's voice was very quiet. Because maintaining the barrier requires constant power. More power than any planet or star can provide. It would require ... double quotes. She paused. It would require what? Jake demanded. Admiral Blake's voice came over the communication system. It would require every human ship and every human life to power it permanently. We would have to give up everything to keep the galaxy safe. Jake felt cold. You're talking about suicide. We're talking about sacrifice, Blake replied. If we can't win this battle, it may be the only way to save everyone else. Before anyone could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the fleet. Maya's voice came over the speakers. All ships, this is Scout Command. The Devourer fleet has arrived. Early. They're coming out of jump space right now. Jake looked at the main screen. Dark shapes were appearing around the solar system. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. The Devourer fleet was even larger than their estimates. My God, Lisa whispered. There are millions of them. Admiral Blake's voice was calm and steady. All ships. This is Admiral Blake. This is the moment we've trained for. The moment humanity has prepared for during 4,000 years of exile. Today we fight not just for our lives, but for every living thing in the galaxy. Jake watched as the massive Devourer ships began to move toward Earth. Each one was the size of a city, and they moved with deadly purpose. Today, Blake continued, we show these creatures that some things are worth more than energy. Some things are worth dying for. All ships, prepare for battle. Jake looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. Human, Vorthan, and Zephyrian, all ready to fight together. This is it, he told them. For the galaxy. The battle for the survival of all life was about to begin. The first wave of Devourer ships hit the outer defense line like a dark tide. Captain Jake Morrison watched from his bridge as the converted alien ships opened fire with their new null space weapons. The weapons worked. white beams of nothing struck the Devourer ships and tore holes in them. For the first time in the war, the creatures were taking real damage. "We're hurting them," Lisa Harper shouted from her weapons station, but Jake could see the truth on his tactical display. For every Devourer ship they destroyed, 10 more took its place. The enemy fleet was just too big. "Captain Morrison," came Admiral Blake's voice over the communication system. "Take your squadron and protect the evacuation ships. The civilian transports are under attack." Jake's mixed squadron of human, Vorthan, and Kethver ships raced toward the transport fleet. Devourer scouts had broken through the main battle line and were hunting the defenseless civilian ships. "Target the lead scout," Jake ordered. "All ships, fire together." Their combined null-space weapons struck the Devourer scout simultaneously. The creature ship twisted and writhed as its energy was drained away. Then it exploded in a flash of dark light. "Good shooting," called Commander Thachva from his Kethva warship. "But there are more coming." Jake could see them on his sensors. Dozens of Devourer scouts moving fast toward the evacuation fleet. Maya Torres's voice came over the radio. "Jake, I'm seeing something strange. The big Devourer ships aren't just attacking randomly. They're herding our forces toward Earth." Jake looked at his tactical display. Maya was right. The massive enemy fleet was pushing the Allied forces back toward Earth's moon and the human defense stations. "Why would they do that?" asked Dr. Alex Chen from the science station. The answer came from Dr. Stone, aboard Admiral Blake's flagship. "They want our technology intact. If they destroy our ships in deep space, the debris gets scattered. But if they force us to fight near our bases, they can capture our technology when we lose," Jake finished. The thought made him sick. Colonel Hayes's voice broke into the communication channel. "All ships, the enemy is preparing for a final assault." Massive energy buildup detected across their entire fleet. Jake could see it happening. The millions of Devourer ships were forming a sphere around Earth and its defenses. Energy was flowing between them like lightning, building to something enormous. "They're going to drain Earth's sun," Admiral Blake announced grimly. "If that energy blast hits our star, it will go supernova. The explosion will destroy everything in the system and give them enough power to consume the entire galaxy in months instead of years." Jake felt despair wash over him. Even if they won the battle around Earth, losing the sun would doom everyone. "Admiral," came Dr. Stone's voice, "it's time for the null barrier protocol." There was a long silence on the communication channels. Everyone in the fleet knew what that meant. "Understood," Blake replied. "All human ships, prepare for protocol activation. All Allied vessels, withdraw to minimum safe distance." "No," Jake said firmly. "We're not abandoning you." "Captain Morrison," Blake's voice was gentle but firm. "This is not your fight to finish. You've done more than enough." Jake looked around his bridge at his mixed crew. Lisa was human, but Alex was Vorthan. Their communications officer was Kethver. Their engineer was Zephyrian. They had all become friends, family even, during their long journey together. "Admiral," Jake said, with respect, "you're wrong. This is everyone's fight. If you're going to sacrifice yourselves to save the galaxy, we want to help." Similar messages came from ships across the Allied fleet, Vorthan vessels commanded by aliens, who had learned to respect human courage. Kethver warships crewed by warriors who had seen human sacrifice, Zephyrian support ships whose crews had worked alongside human engineers for months. "We stand together," Admiral Corinth announced. "Human, Vorthan, Kethver, and Zephyrian. One fleet until the end." Blake's voice was thick with emotion. "Very well. All ships, prepare for null barrier activation. This will drain every power core, every engine, every life support system. We will not survive this." Dr. Stone's voice came over the speakers, explaining the procedure. The null barrier will create a sphere of null space around the entire galaxy. Nothing that feeds on energy can pass through it, but maintaining it requires constant power input from every ship in the fleet. Jake understood. They would become the galaxy's eternal guardians, their ships and crews powering the barrier forever. Initiating null barrier protocol, Stone announced. Light began to flow from every ship in the fleet. Not normal light, but something that seemed to bend space itself. The light streams met in the space between Earth and the Moon, forming a growing sphere of nothing. The Devourers reacted immediately. Their ships began firing every weapon they had at the growing barrier. But their energy beams just fed the null space field, making it stronger. "It's working," Maya reported from her scout ship. "The barrier is expanding faster than expected." Jake watched his power levels dropping rapidly. All around him, his crew worked calmly at their stations, knowing they were giving their lives for something greater than themselves. "Captain," Lisa said quietly, "it's been an honor serving with you." "The honor was mine," Jake replied. The null space barrier reached the Devourer fleet. Where it touched their ships, the creatures simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not converted to energy, just gone, as if they had never been. The barrier kept expanding, moving faster than light itself. Within minutes, it had reached the edge of the solar system. Within hours, it would encompass the entire galaxy. But something unexpected happened. As more and more ships added their power to the barrier, it began to sustain itself. The null space field was drawing energy from the empty space between stars, feeding on the quantum vacuum itself. "Stone to all ships," came Dr. Stone's surprised voice. "The barrier is stabilizing on its own. We can reduce power output to minimum levels." Jake looked at his power readings. Instead of draining completely, his ship's systems were stabilizing at about 10% power, enough to keep life support running, enough to maintain the barrier, but not enough to leave. Admiral Blake's voice was filled with wonder. "It seems we've created something greater than we planned. The galaxy now has a permanent defense against creatures like the "What does this mean for us?" asked Admiral Corinth. "It means we become the Guardians," Blake replied. "We can survive, but we can never leave. The barrier needs our ships to anchor it. We will spend the rest of our lives patrolling the rim of the galaxy, making sure nothing like the Devourers ever gets through again." Jake thought about this new reality. They had saved the galaxy, but at the cost of their freedom. They could never return to their homes, never see their families again. But as he looked around his bridge at his diverse crew, he realized something important. They had created a new kind of family out here, human and alien, working together, in ways that had never been possible before. "Captain Morrison," Blake's voice came over the communication system. "I'm forming a new organization to govern our Guardian fleet, the Rim Covenant. Would you accept the position of first liaison between the Guardian fleet and the inner galaxy?" Jake looked at his crew. They were all nodding. Double quotes, "Yes, sir, we'll do it." As the months passed, the Rim Covenant established its role as the galaxy's protectors. Ships from the inner worlds brought supplies and news. Some even volunteered to join the Guardian fleet permanently. Jake often stood on his bridge, looking out at the stars they protected. The galaxy was safe, its people free to explore and grow and dream. The price had been high, but it was a price worth paying. Maya Torres, now Admiral Torres of the Rim Covenant Scouts, often visited Jake's ship. "Any regrets, Jake?" she asked during one of her visits. Jake thought about it carefully. "No," he said finally. "We did what we had to do, and we did it together." The long silence had ended not with humanity's return to the galaxy, but with their acceptance of an eternal duty. They had become the guardians in the darkness, the watchers on the rim, ensuring that the light of civilization would never be extinguished, and in that duty, they had found something precious, a unity between species. that had never existed before. Human, Vorthan, Kethver, and Zephyrian, standing together against the dark, protecting all life in the galaxy. The war was over. The watch had begun. Deep in space, monitoring stations detected new signals from distant galaxies, other civilizations, other threats, other challenges that might one day test the barrier. But the Guardians were ready. They had learned the most important lesson of all, that some things were worth any sacrifice. Some things were worth protecting forever. The galaxy slept safely, protected by those who had chosen duty over comfort, service over safety, and the greater good over their own desires. The long silence had ended. The eternal watch had begun.